Hi everyone, and thank you for tuning in again to this training module. This is the third in our series of training modules, and the focus for this video clip is on the growth and development of exceptional children who might require special education services. This will include a summary of the steps needed to identify and plan for students who may have special education needs, and to work together as a team to support those students in the regular classroom as much as possible while implementing an IEP for those students. This could be a very lengthy module, as this is a very large topic, but I will keep it brief, and we will have information on the website where this video is located so that you can read specific information and get more information specific to a student that might be in your classroom. The main thing to understand is that all of our schools follow the Connecticut guidelines for implementing IEPs for students with special education needs. We also follow the U.S. Department of Education federal guidelines for implementing IEPs with students. In Cheshire Public Schools, we are able to educate a wide variety of students with a variety of disabilities and special education needs. The first step that we take to make sure that we're providing appropriate educational programs to our students is to identify students who may have a disability and require specialized instruction. In Cheshire, we use the SRBI process in our schools so that we can intervene early when we suspect that a student is struggling. We gather information with our benchmark assessments or with data from the report cards of students or information about how they're doing on tests and quizzes to see who may be struggling academically and who may need extra support. The SRBI team reviews that information, and if a student is not making good progress or adequate progress, then that student can be referred to special education, which in the legalese of special education is referred to as the child find process. When the SRBI team or a parent or a member of the school staff has a concern with a student, that student is referred to special education, which means a planning and placement team meeting is held. And that team sits down, reviews all the information, and considers whether or not a disability is suspected and whether a more involved and comprehensive evaluation is needed to determine the strengths and weaknesses of a student and to determine if the student meets the criteria as a student with a disability as designated by federal law and state law. Once those evaluations are completed, and I should point out that evaluations can only be done if the parent or guardian provides consent for those evaluations to be done. We can never do comprehensive evaluations with an individual student unless the parent or guardian gives consent. So after an evaluation is done, the planning and placement team comes together again for a second meeting to review all the evaluation results. At that point, a determination is made as to whether or not the student is eligible for special education services under one of the disability categories that are designated in federal law. If the planning and placement team that reviews the results of the evaluations determines that the student does in fact have a disability, then the student will have an individualized education program planned. That is commonly referred to as an IEP. If you are the teacher or one of the teachers of the student who has an IEP, you can now see that IEP when you log into your PowerSchool account and see the information for all the students in your class or in your classes. If a student has an IEP, there will be an icon at the top of the screen with the student's information. You can click on that icon and you can review the IEP whenever you would like. This is a change that was made in the spring of last school year, and we know that that will be very helpful for making sure that all staff members, teachers, and service providers who work with a student can access IEPs at any point. The IEP lists the specific goals and objectives that will be worked on with a student to support a student making progress. It also lists the accommodations and modifications that need to be in place for a student when he or she participates in their regular classroom setting or in their special education setting or the setting with service providers who will also be supporting a student. It is very important and mandatory that all accommodations and modifications be put in place and followed. If those aren't followed, we're violating the IEP, which is a serious problem which we can't have in the school district. If you have any questions about the accommodations or modifications for a student, please speak with the special education teacher, one of the service providers, or the principal in your school to make sure that that can be clarified as soon as possible. Those accommodations and modifications are important to make sure that the student can have access to the educational program that has been designed for that particular student. It's also important to understand that each IEP is specific to a student, so IEPs are very customized for students. So the features of an IEP for one student will likely be different than the features of an IEP for a second student. So don't assume that all IEPs are the same or that you should be doing the same thing for every student with an IEP who might be in one of your classes. Each IEP is custom designed and you need to be clear on what the needs are for each particular student. One of the most important things that happens in Cheshire Public Schools is that there is always ongoing collaboration between the special ed service providers, related service providers, and the regular classroom teachers to make sure that everyone is aware of the needs of a student and the progress that a student is making if he or she does have an IEP. If at any point any member of the instructional team, whether that be a regular ed teacher, a special ed teacher, or a service provider, has questions about what needs to be happening to support a student's progress, please be sure to ask to speak with the other team members and get those concerns clarified. Sometimes it can be difficult to arrange time to do that, but it is very important that we get that done. So please be sure to speak with your principal to find time or to have time arranged so that you can meet as a team to collaborate and be sure that everyone is aware of the needs of our particular students. If you have any questions about any of this process, please be sure to speak with your building principal, or at the secondary level, please speak with Tracy Hussey, who is the supervisor of special education for the secondary schools, Dodd and Cheshire High School. If you have questions about an elementary student, please be sure to speak with your principal or Robin Ann Carey, who's the elementary supervisor, and at Darcy, Ann Donnery is the principal and also supervises the special education process. And of course, I'm always available to consult with school teams on any matters related to special education or the provision of related services. Thank you for watching this module.